Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Wheels Up podcast. In this podcast, we just talk about Criminal Minds and topics having to do with the beloved show, um, just for funsies and to give the fans a platform. And yeah, this is my co host, Mary. I'm
Hello.
Frankie. And today we're going to be talking about some ships, which is such a
Ooh,
fun topic.
it's gonna be painful.
it's, um, I think we should first talk about like the kind of small-ish romance aspect of Criminal Minds. There's not a lot, at least in the team. None of the team members date each other except towards the end, like Luke and Garcia kind of like,
Yeah.
but that doesn't really count. So outside of that, none of the team members ever get together, which I think Mary will agree with me is a great thing.
Yeah.
Just because the show works so well because of the inter friendships that they have and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, but despite that, there is still some romance in the show, and a lot of it is bad.
A lot of it's bad.
um, yeah. So today we're just gonna talk about some. We're gonna first focus on ships that haven't happened, and then we're gonna maybe move on to some actual relationships that take place in the show. So, first ship. By the way, I have them separated between homosexual and heterosexual, and we're just gonna bounce back between them. So we're gonna start with.
I'm scared. By the way, she did not tell me which ships we're going over or which order, so I'm gonna be just as surprised as you guys are.
I didn't tell her on. Yeah, I wanted to see Mary's reaction. I didn't tell her on purpose. The first one I don't want to start with because it's so cursed.
Oh no.
I don't like
It
it.
better not be Reed JJ.
No, 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 no. That's like
Okay.
we're gonna get
We
into
need to
that.
warm up to that.
Maybe we should warm up to this one. This one's nasty. Okay, how about we start with we'll start with a straight one because I feel like that's a easier thing to palate to take. Um, uh, Aaron Hotchner. Every
I'm
time
scared.
Hotch is like shit with anyone, I'm like, I get really afraid just because he's such like a dad figure of the show.
Yeah.
But this is a popular one actually. Aaron Hotchner and Emily Prentice.
I have seen that one before.
That
Don't love it.
I think you're gonna say that for every ship. These are all
Maybe.
pretty bad. Um, I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, it's not impossible just because I feel like as characters they're not like too far apart like age wise or anything like that, and
Yeah.
they're and I feel like Emily isn't afraid to call Hotch out. Like she's
That's
definitely
true.
like I don't want to say alpha. That's it's a horrible thing to say, but she's a very strong personality, and I think
Yeah, she's not
that
like a meek person.
yeah, yeah. Um, what are
I
your
mean,
thoughts
I
on the
don't
ship?
like it for one, like while he's in charge of the team.
Okay.
I don't really like those like power play dynamics in general.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, I don't think it would be like an unhealthy relationship,
Yeah.
like some ships are in fandom, but like they just don't have any chemistry on screen. I don't really understand it.
I'm trying to think of when like moments like that happen. I think just because like if the way they met, honestly, if you took that, it's similar almost to like a romantic comedy, a little
Yeah,
bit kind
it
of
is kind of a
fanficky,
rom-com
where
thing.
she's like, where she walks in and Hotch is like, I didn't hire anyone, I didn't do any of the paperwork, and he's basically like, get out, get out, get out to her, like,
Hmm.
but very like in a polite way, and she's like, I deserve to be here, and she spends a lot of time like proving herself in the beginning as a part of the team.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't see any like romantic chemistry between
I
them.
mean, I'd say on like the Criminal Minds ship scale,
Yeah.
it's more towards the okay side than the completely disgusting side. But I think I'm just really attached to lesbian Emily.
Okay, yeah, that's a big thing. We're probably not going to get into that today in the episode, but both Mary
Yeah,
and I are very attached to the idea of like a lesbian Emily Prentice, which I
because that's what she was gonna be.
but the producers are cowards.
They are. They are cowards.
um so yeah. Okay, so if they were to date, would do you think they'd last as a couple?
I think they'd be like I think they'd be like an easy couple.
Mm.
Like, like in like rom-coms when like the person is like in a relationship with someone, but then they like break it off because they like find someone they like actually genuinely love, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Like I feel like they'd be like the first type. So I feel like they could last if neither of them met any other person, you know what I mean? Not like not like but like they could last if like neither of them like met someone that they like really like
Yeah.
felt
No,
like passion for, you know what I mean?
I know that's completely understandable. So if they were to get together, you think they'd break up because one of them might eventually meet someone else.
Yeah.
I agree with
But I
that.
mean, I don't think they'd get together because like Hotch has a kid.
Yeah,
Not because I don't think Emily wants kids, but I think that Hotch would definitely like think more about someone he's going to be permanently bringing into Jack's life in that
that's true.
context. Because Emily's already in his life, but like in that context, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know if he would like Emily enough to do that.
I also think like if the show's plot were to go the way it did go, I don't think Hotch would want to be with someone from his like kind of quote unquote past life because he kind of
That's true.
in a way he did kind of escape um the BAU and in the sense of like it messed the B had his job messed with his life a shit ton. We don't need to
Yeah.
elaborate on why. We know exactly why. But I don't think Hotch would want to date someone that was so closely attached to like his work and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um but yeah. Okay. Is that should we move on to the next one?
Yeah, I don't have like a lot of hard opinions on that one. I don't love it. I don't like hate it. You know what I mean?
It's like it's not polarizing.
Hmm.
Do you want to move on to something very polarizing?
Oh, I'm scared.
I'm kind of scared to say it. Oh God, Aaron Hotchner and Spencer Reed.
No, I hate it. I hate it.
Dude, I was so shocked this actually came up, but yeah, it's a thing. Not a very big thing, but it's a thing.
Fiction. I haven't read it, so I'm not putting myself through that.
I'm pretty sure
But I've seen it.
they're at the very least like maybe like 15 to 20 years apart age-wise. Honestly?
Yeah. But I mean, more important than that, Hotch is very like mature in his life and like emotionally, and like
Yeah.
especially the beginning of the show, Reed is very young in that sense.
Yeah, yeah. There is a very awkward power play there. Not just because Hotch is literally his boss, but like the age gap and the way their like friendship works, it's not great.
He also Reed also attached. Okay, this happens to multiple older men on the show, but Reed is kind of attached to him in a
Yeah,
father-like
yeah.
sense,
Reed is attached to everyone.
basically.
Every
He has the
time.
daddy issues.
So true. Let's talk about
The
that for a second.
co-parent.
Like I Reed kind of did that honestly like kind of he did that with Rossi kind of. He definitely did it with Hotch. He definitely did it with Gideon.
He
And
did it with
honest
Gideon so hard.
out of context that sounds so bad.
Don't stop that.
um he kind of did it like kind of mother-wise with Emily. Like cuz the way
Yeah,
Emily treats him, it is kind of like not flirty. It's like kind of friendly, but also like she does act like a bit of like an older sister, almost mother kind of thing, you know?
yeah, I could see that.
This will never happen. Should never happen. I don't I think if
What are
it
you gonna
did,
say?
I think if it did happen, the gay community would be mad. This is not the representation anyone wants.
Oh yeah.
um, even though it's impossible, if they were to get together,
No, stop.
we have to discuss how they would break up because it's obvious they wouldn't last.
Jeez, how they would break up. Um, I can't even picture them together. I can't picture them in a romantic context.
You
I
know,
just can't do it. I don't think like I know like Reed seems kind of emotionally unavailable, but I think he really needs a lot of like emotional attention, just kind of like how he is, you know?
yeah,
And I think like I don't think Hotch would be able to give that to him.
yeah. No,
Does that make sense?
yeah, it's similar to like a I don't want to say this, but it's a horrible thing, but like the call me by your name dynamic of like a really large age gap, a really toxic, unhealthy relationship that would never work because one of them is so like far ahead life-wise, and the other one
Yeah.
is just growing into themselves.
Oh yeah.
Um, and also Reed they're both very like in vulnerable places. Like the trauma Hotch has gone through and the stuff that Reed still has to work through, it's
Hmm.
not a healthy combination at all.
Yeah, that's one of those reasons that I feel like the point we see Reed at on the show, I don't think he's ready to be in any type of romantic relationship.
And that's true. And I would like to say that. I forgot to put him and him and Max down. We'll talk about them later maybe, but we've talked about this before that I think Mary and I both agree that Reed would I don't think should have ended up with anyone in like the final
Yeah. It wasn't
episode.
necessary for them to just throw it in. They tried so hard, but just wasn't necessary.
I
Like,
think yeah. I think my favorite thing you've I forget who said it, but you probably said it. I think my favorite thing you've ever said was that like Max is kind of a fan fiction like
oh yeah.
type girl, like that any of us could insert ourselves into the story because she is not that she's not smart or that she's not like a great person, but she is average in a sense.
She's a very YN type character. Like, let me describe to you this scene that probably could have happened in any number of self-insert fan fictions. You are at the park watching your nephew on the playground, and then a tall, handsome man shows up and starts talking to your nephew. You refuse to give him your name because it seems kind of creepy, but then you kind of hit it off and there's some witty banter.
The beginning of their relationship, the way it plays out is so fanfishy because isn't her thing that like doesn't she like kind of show him around DC as kind of like a cute quirky thing because he never takes the time to like be a person or like
Yeah, the only reason he starts talking to her is because his therapist told him to have a single conversation that's not about work or with one of his coworkers.
I hate it. I hate it. It's very fanfictiony. Um, but yeah, we have to move on. I hate this one.
Yeah.
We're gonna go. Okay. Um. Oh, again, another pretty palatable one. Emily Prentice and Derek Morgan.
Once again, I'm lukewarm
Why? Why do you say that?
because I don't like love them together. I feel like they have a very brother sister relationship
That's true.
on the show.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, again, not a very polarizing couple because, like, I think age-wise and who they are as people, it wouldn't be like inappropriate.
Yeah, like experience wise, they're kind of similar.
Yeah, but it just, I don't think realistically it. Well, I'm trying to think. I don't want to say I want it to happen, but I wouldn't be like, where did this come from if it were to happen, you know? To be
Yeah.
fair, when things happen in the show, I usually say, where did this come from?
Oh
But
yeah.
if this were to happen, if this had happened, I wouldn't be like completely shocked just because like I don't know if the writers had built up their chemistry more, like it would have been more of a possibility maybe. And they are like
Yeah, I could see that.
yeah, and they are really good friends in the show and like Derek to Emily is one of the people who's like who really emphasizes that she needs to trust people and that like emotionally she needs to be more like available and she really steps up. I mean, he really steps up for her and she does the same. Um
Yeah, I don't hate it. I feel like this is the difference for me. If there was some chemistry when they were first introduced,
yeah.
then I think that because like the people together, I feel like that's okay.
Yeah.
But like I feel like the team, like as they progress, they become more and more family-esque, and then
Yeah.
once they start dating, it kind of creeps me out.
Yeah.
And I think that's my thing.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's definitely a big thing and it definitely like it's a great thing the writers did is that they never made any of the team members like at least like do a full on relationship during the show.
Yeah.
Um not to say they haven't kind of tried and failed and disgusted the fan base, and we'll get into that later. But you know, at least they didn't like full on put people
Yeah.
together. Um if they were to get together, do you think they'd last?
Mm, well, Emily's closeted.
Okay, there's not in this universe
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Um, I feel like they're just another Hotch Emily thing. Like I feel like they'd be okay together.
Yeah.
Just like I feel like they'd be fine and fulfilled if they were just like friends living in a house. Like
They just never got married, so they decided to marry each other as friends.
yeah,
I think that's a good plan.
I do that. I just raise a child with my friend.
Honestly, I saw a TikTok where it was like, how come we don't raise child with our friends? I feel like that's a lot easier. And I'm like, I kind of
Yeah.
see that. I kind of see that. Because you never have to worry about like breaking up or divorce or anything like that. There's no animosity.
Yeah.
Um, what was I going to say? I think right now, as they are, wouldn't last. Again, for the same reasons of like, I think a relationship not only needs to like, you know, not be easy, but like be comfortable in a sense, but at the same time has to move forward and has to give the two people in the relationship the ability to move forward and grow as people. And I think if as they are, uh Derek and Emily were to date, that it wouldn't happen for them. But I feel like if in the show they had like added more chemistry or whatever, or like
Hmm.
done more stuff to make, if they were to like to be a couple in the show, I think maybe they'd last.
I do feel like they're kind of similar people.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not the same, but they're kind of similar. So I don't know if they'd like push each other
Yeah, yeah.
that way, but
I think a good thing is that they kind of have similar end goals in life. Like you hear Emily talking about having a kid a lot and like, getting her own like a house, getting a house and like, eventually Derek marries someone and has a kid and like he
hmm,
seems very much like a family person.
yeah, it's true.
I think they have I think if they were to have a child together, that child would be insane. Like insanely
Oh
smart,
yeah.
athletic, like just
Be like
complete.
Captain America. They literally birthed Captain America.
They would birth Captain America. Should we move on to the next one?
Yeah.
Oh god. I hate this. I hate that all the gay ones are cursed. This is so bad. I
Jeez.
This has nothing to do with it. It's literally nothing to do with the fact that they're gay, but literally just the fact of them as characters just don't work well together.
Is it Derek and Reed?
Yeah.
I hate it. I hate it.
um
They're brothers though.
uh, um you why don't you start? I feel like I've been starting a lot.
They have such a brotherly relationship. They pull pranks on each other and they make fun of each other all the time and they kind of roughhouse sometimes. Like I can't even imagine them being in a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
Like they're such good friends and they're so close, but any type of sexual happenstance at all is
Yeah.
leave me alone.
It's yeah, the brother, it's just too like, you know, um it's hard to imagine again because they're never like into each other that way, and it's so like
No.
such a brother relationship. It's hard to discuss.
I feel like I'm just like I don't like any of the relationships between any of the team members because I feel like they're family members and it's incest.
Can I explain to you? This is You're gonna think this is so cursed, but can I explain
Oh
to you
no,
how I think these two would get together if they were to get together?
I'm scared, but go ahead.
Okay. So you know how Reed has a lot of trauma, and you know how with trauma your love map tends to get fucked up a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like
I'm scared. I'm scared on where this is
I don't
going.
know. I I think Reed, if also in this in my mind Reed is also bisexual, so like remember that. I think in a sudden awakening of like realizing he might like guys, he might look towards someone he like likes as a friend and then get that confused with like romantic attraction.
You know, maybe,
Someone
maybe
write
he could be confused.
Someone write that down and give me the publishing rights. Write it down and give me the publishing rights. Um yeah, but then again, outside of the weird universe that is my head, I don't think it would ever happen realistically. It just wouldn't work out logistically. And
Yeah.
they also the big thing is that they like know each other before the show and for like a long time, so it doesn't.
Hmm.
Anyways, we move on to the next one.
Yeah. I feel like all of these are gonna be like, don't love it, or I just hate it. Like, there's no other.
That's true. I think this is definitely another hate one. I hate it. Penelope Garcia and Derek Morgan.
I hate it.
Everyone hates this one.
I hate it.
I hate it.
I mean, I think the main thing is it never happens in media that you have like a good female male relationship
That's true.
where they're like close and they're like good friends and it doesn't turn sexual and you're not really afraid of it turning sexual. There's no like they didn't try to like throw in a little let's one of them has a crush on the other or something or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great seeing like an opposite sex relationship and it's not like this weird sexual tension. And the writers did a great thing by like defeating that sexual tension by both of them just being overly open and kind of sexual
Yeah.
with each other. It kind of defeats this whole possibility of them ever getting together in real life because they've known each other for a long time. So if it were to happen, probably would have happened a long time ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, they work way too well like as friends.
They're such good friends. Another pair I could see just like platonically raising a child together.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, yeah. Okay, if they if they were to get together, I hate to pose this question. Um, would they last?
No,
Why?
because sometimes you can be really good friends with somebody, but
Mm-hmm.
then being in their space 24/7 forever in perpetuity,
Yeah,
they can get on your nerves.
that's big facts.
And they both have such large personalities. I just feel like it wouldn't work out.
That's true. And I don't they want different things? Wasn't the whole thing with like
Yeah.
Kevin and Garcia? She's like, I don't want to get married, and Derek's all ready to commit, like as a
They
person.
never explain that though. That annoys me.
I'll
They
give
just
you.
wanted an excuse to get rid of Kevin.
That's true.
It makes me upset. So I liked
Um,
Kevin.
I did too. Should we move on to the next one?
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't have to spend too much time on the cursed ones.
Yeah. Is this cursed?
Oh,
No,
no.
this is so cursed. Oh god. Why can't we have good gay ships?
You wrote them down.
I'm sorry. I literally here's what I looked up Criminal Minds ships and I just wrote down all the ones that popped up. So almost none of these came from my brain. They all came from the cursed minds of the Criminal Minds fan base.
I do not read a lot of Criminal Minds fan fiction.
I
Like
don't
I've
either.
read barely any. But like the couple times I have like looked it up, I've just like the first time I looked it up, I was just astounded by the ships. I was like, why?
The
Why would you
audacity.
do that though?
No, I think the writers have created an interesting environment in which they never made any of the characters get together like officially, and so the
Mhm.
fans are just like, "Oh, let's just like
Let's
cross
ship
the line.
everyone with everyone.
Let's just see what happens."
Let's blur the lines.
Why? Oh my god! Oh my
It's like, have you ever seen that meme where
god!
it's like, or I guess it's not like a meme, it's like a text post or something, but it's like, you know, I was watching the Umbrella Academy and I was
Mhm.
like, oh, finally, all of the characters are siblings. There won't be any weird
Oh
ships.
my
But then
god!
I remembered incest. Like that's the feeling I had.
That's a good quote. But then I remembered incest. Fuck, I hate this so much. Okay, Aaron Hodgson or David Rossi.
I don't like it. Um, I mean, it's not as bad as the other cursed ones.
I get
Like
that.
I could kind of see it. But Rossi's so much older than Hodge, isn't
That
he?
that's another thing. Like Rossi worked with Gideon.
Rossi's like an elderly man.
Uh-huh.
And also, when Rossi first met Hotch, wasn't Hotch like basically an intern at the BAU?
I think so.
Like that just kind of grosses me
It'd
out.
be weird. It'd be weird.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Yeah. Also, they never bring it up in the show again, but there is like a hinting that Hotch was abused by his father as a kid. And I think Rossi kind of fills that role as like a senior, like dad figure.
Yeah.
Um,
Rossi is to Hotch as Hotch is to Reed. And Rossi is Reed's metaphorical grandfather.
that's true.
I think that describes the relationship exactly, actually. Like,
um,
honestly.
that's true actually. I hate posing this question every time. If they were to get together, they wouldn't last. Let's just say that. I don't want to. I don't even. I don't even
They
entertain
wouldn't.
the possibility. How would they break up?
Well, Rossi would have to raise Jack with Hotch. So right off the bat, I don't know if Rossi would be able to do that.
God, I don't know either.
Like, I feel like that might be one of the reasons why they don't get together. Like, even if they were kind of like, oh, hi, like, I feel like they wouldn't get together because I don't think Rossi. Not like
Isn't
he's not able to raise a kid, but I just feel like he doesn't really want to.
isn't Hotch's kid like based almost around the same age as Rossi's grandson?
Rossi's grandson is a few years younger, but yeah, they're like within like 6 years, I think.
Yeah.
So
It's not.
that tells you all you need to know.
If you're out here writing Aaron Hotchner and David Rossi fan fiction, first thing, why? I want to know why. And two, can you please come on the show? We want to speak to you.
We would like to hear your thought process.
Yeah, I want to know.
You could share that with us.
We're not shaming you. We're not gonna shame you. But like, I'm very interested in how that plays out.
I mean, it's not age gaps so much as like power imbalances
Yeah.
that kind of like I don't like. So like the main thing for me is that when they met, Hotch was so young and impressionable and like basically an intern.
Mm,
So
okay. Uh. Oh, this one I feel okay. Not okay, but like better. Spencer Reed and Emily Prentice.
I don't like it.
Why do you not like it?
Because I just don't like any of them, Frankie.
This is like the Spencer Reed trauma episode where we thought it was gonna be like an upbeat, just talk about it time. It's slowly just like sinking into like we hate this, we hate this, we hate
I
this.
forgot that I like barely any of the ships on the show.
That's true. That's very true.
This is really weird because like usually I like have like a few ships on like a show or book that I'm reading that I really like.
Oh
But
yeah.
like this I just like this is let's just say this is outside of the norm for me.
Yeah. Honestly, for
So
me too.
yeah,
Um,
for Emily
I
and Reed.
yeah, go.
I mean, you did say before like Emily is kind of like mother like big sister role for
Yeah,
him. Like
exactly. I'm trying to think. You know what? I would never imagine their characters getting. You know what? I'll say this. I'm trying to think. If they were to get together like late show, I wouldn't hate it. Um, but I think if they were ever to get together, their characters late in the later show would have probably been the most realistic.
yeah, I could see that, but also if it did happen, I would definitely be thinking that isn't necessarily realistic and the writers definitely only put them together so they would each have a person,
That's true.
you know?
That's
Because at the end they are definitely like everyone needs a significant other. I think they paired off everyone on the show. Like everyone had a person.
yeah. I don't like that. I don't like
So
that.
they're like happy ending equals romantic relationship, even if the romantic relationship may or not last.
Can I tell you how I wish the show ended?
Yeah.
What event are they all at the end of the show? Is it a wedding? Is it Derek's wedding? I forget where they are.
No, it's Garcia's going away party.
Oh,
And you think it's Rossi's retirement party, but then Garcia shows up and they're like, oh, it's Garcia. Who's the party's for?
I hate that. Um, you know how I wish the show ended? This you're gonna hate me for this. But I wish they were all like together and like having their happy moments, and then a sniper from like a roof just shot all of them down. That's not funny, but I think that's how I wish a show would.
Why?
They're not real characters, you
No,
know.
but what's your explanation there? Like, what would that do for you?
I think everyone but me would have hated it.
Yes, but I mean, I guess you are also the person who wanted to like write a fan fiction where one of the major characters dies for no reason. Wasn't that like your thing?
Hey, Mary, you can't say that. Someone's gonna steal my idea.
That's not. That's like barely an idea.
Hey, fuck off. You're not getting to read it when I first write it then.
Okay.
Um, where were we? Yeah, I just wish everyone had died at the end.
I mean, you complain about all the trauma that they put Reed through and all of like the sad stuff that happens on the show, but then you're also like, I want them all to die.
Yeah.
I want them to have a happy ending, but I don't feel like their happy ending necessarily needs to be them in romantic relationships. Like you can have like a fulfilling life without being in a romantic relationship necessarily.
I agree. I agree. Um, but let me give you some insight into who I am as a person. I'm the kind of person who, after watching Infinity War, was satisfied. I didn't want them to come back. I wanted.
Fuck you. What?
I didn't
I've
want
never heard that before from a single
defeat.
person in my life.
I wanted. I didn't want Endgame. I didn't want.
You watched spoiler alert, everyone.
A
You
big
watched
spoiler alert.
Peter die in Tony's arms, but just like into like goodbye, Mr. Stark, and then you were just chill with that?
Yeah, I was fine.
What's wrong with you?
I mean, I cried. Yeah, I thought it was super sad, and like I didn't like it. Like I'm not a masochist. Well, that's debatable. But like I was at the end, I was like, yeah, that's how it ends.
I don't even know how to respond right now. Okay, so let's pivot. I personally
Okay.
like having them like be happy at the end and like
Mm,
kind of like, and I can imagine them still living their lives and like having a happy life.
sure. I don't. I
All right.
like it when characters die when the show ends. I think it's great. I think you. I think because I think it's
What
'cause
show?
Criminal Minds. I like that we know their entire story and that there's nothing left up to possibility.
Well, I like that there could like possibly be something else that happened, like they're still living out there and they're having a good time.
Again, to be fair, I think Mary's one of those people who looks forward to living past 30, and I dread it.
Why are we getting into suicidal ideation?
It's not suicidal ideation. It's like I mean I'm not gonna kill myself, but I am very tired, and it's like it's a long trudge, you know. I feel like I'm about to go on like a 7 hour hike, and I'm just like I'm gonna do it, but fuck, man.
Okay, I'm worried, but we're gonna circle back to this when we're not being recorded. Okay, let's move on to something else. Which
Okay.
ship were we on?
I don't remember. Spencer Reed and Emily Prentice. I don't even know how we ended up
Oh
there.
yeah. Um yeah, I just don't like it. I have nothing else to say.
If they were to get together, they wouldn't last. I say they.
Also, she's not a great deal older than him, but she's like at least 10 years older than him, right?
Yeah, there's a dynamic there.
Yeah.
I think they would break up because Reed might have realized one of them would have realized that like they were together with the only person just because they got the whole like friendship attraction and romantic attraction mixed up, and that they're in
Mhm.
different places in their lives.
Yeah.
um,
I also feel like at the end of the show, Reed kind of seems like he's gonna start like branching out and like, what I mean? Like he started like teaching and he's like kind of like branching out life wise, but I feel like Emily's kind of like, she's not like leaning towards like retirement in any sense,
yeah,
but she's kind of like started like settling down, kind of. You know what I mean?
absolutely,
So I feel like
absolutely.
they're kind of like on opposite trajectories.
That's true. Uh, yeah. So the next one, again, this is not that bad. JJ and Emily Prentice. This is a very popular ship within the fan
Yeah.
base. How do you feel, Mary?
Lukewarm. Don't hate it. I mean, more on the okay, more towards okay than like Hotch and Reed and Hotch and Rossi and Emily and Hotch, I think.
Yeah. Again, I wouldn't have mind if Will had never entered the picture and she had never had Henry with him. I think it would have been fine. Honestly, can I be honest with you? I don't mind it like at all.
Yeah, I think it's okay. I think it's okay.
I think as
Honestly,
sorry, go.
Emily doesn't have any like good love interests
That's true.
throughout the course of the show. Like it's happened a lot of times. They like introduce someone for an episode and she like flirts with them and they never come back.
Yeah, which I hate. I hate when they do
And
that.
also most of them have accents,
That's
which
true.
I think is interesting.
She has a thing.
But I think, now that I'm thinking about it, I think like them being in a relationship would allow them to grow JJ's character in a way that they haven't before. So honestly, I think it would be good for the show overall if they didn't have Will, because I do like Will and their little family.
I'm gonna email the Criminal Minds writers and tell them on the opportunity they've missed out on. Can I honestly? It would add dimension to JJ's character that I think her character is kind of lacking.
Yeah. Not that like her whole character should be based on dating Emily,
Oh
but
yeah,
I
yeah,
think that could be a stepping off point
definitely.
because they really were like, this is blonde small town girl who has a gun and can speak words.
Yeah,
And this is her character. She has kids. But they could use that to like kind of make her a little bit different from
yeah.
like her mold.
I think a lot of her character was based in the fact that like she is from the like kind of stereotypical like origin, but like her whole thing was like oh but she's a badass and she can do it, but like that can only get you so far.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, breaking stereotypes isn't a character. Like you have to like build on that.
yeah, absolutely. Um, and again, I think they would have worked. I think personality wise they mesh well. I'm trying I can't think of a reason why they would fall apart. They both of like I think they both want kids, you know, in a sense,
Yeah.
and they're both into settling down.
Honestly, out of all of the possible relationships inside the team, I think they would work the best,
Oh yeah.
to be honest.
I think if they were given a good like getting together story, like a good plot, and the
Yeah.
writers really worked on their chemistry, I think they would have lasted as a couple.
Yeah, I agree. They definitely couldn't just throw them together, but I would feel that way about like any relationship on the show.
You know how cute it would have been if they had a storyline in which they adopted a kid?
That would be so cute. Emily would love
Mad.
that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think what would make them work is the fact that they have like similar goals. And I think emotionally, they're both in decent places.
Hmm.
N- Neither of them are like working through recent trauma.
Yeah.
Not like Rita's constantly.
Well, like who else is working through as much trauma as Reed?
No. But yeah. Is there anything else you want to say about that?
No. Is there anything else you want to say?
No. But we're finally moving on to the most cursed ship of all. JJ and Spencer Reed.
No.
Ew. You want to start?
I just hate that they brought it up. I thought it was just kind of like a thing that like JJ never actually felt for him because they dropped it again so fast. They ignored it for like what 12 seasons,
Oh my god! Don't even
and then
start
they
it.
picked it up again in 15, like halfway through season 15.
It's
Was
so
that when it
dumb.
was?
Yeah.
For like literally no reason. The only reason they brought it up was so they could add drama, have JJ regret marrying Will for some bullshit reason,
Ew.
and then just cry together. And it was just, and there was no point because
Mm-hmm.
JJ never even considered actually being with Reed because she was like, I love my family. But
Yeah.
she made it seem like she didn't actually love Will, which I hated because I like Will. I
Yeah.
can't understand what he's saying half the time, but he's a sweet little Louisiana boy.
I love I love Will. I love everything about Will except for the fact that he's a cop, obviously. But
Yeah, but everyone on the show is a cop, basically,
well,
Frankie.
not in the same way that Will is.
Okay.
Doesn't he get promoted or something? Doesn't he get
What to?
promoted to a position that's less copy?
He's a detective.
Yeah. So he's not the guy
He's not a
from
beat cop.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. But no, you know what? I don't know if Mary's gonna agree with me, but I think this is like probably the only ship that is worse than like Derek Morgan and Penelope Garcia getting together.
I hate Derek and Garcia a little bit more, but they're definitely close.
Yeah,
They're
hers.
definitely close.
Do you want to say anything else? Because I feel like I'm about to go on like a 5 minute rant about this.
Go ahead,
Okay.
rant away.
There's I hate this ship for so many reasons. I personally like again, it's more that I don't like the disservice that the writers have done to JJ's character. I think I wish she had more complexity. I think she's like a good person. Like as a person, I think she'd be great, but like she needs more complexity than just being like a girl who like escaped her like hometown. Um and they just I hate it because it's an obvious like pairing, especially in the beginning, because they're both like younger members of the team, and they like and she treats him like a little brother kind of, but like in a romantic comedy kind of sense. And there like is a hint of them getting together. Like I remember in the early seasons, I forget who gives him the ticket. I think it was Gideon. Gideon gives Reed like sports tickets, and then Gideon's like, "Oh, you should ask out JJ," and like they go, but I think who ends up joining them? It ends up being like a hangout less than a date,
It
and
might be Garcia.
they kind of get into like how Reed kind of thought it was a date, but JJ didn't, and then they never pick it up again. And I hate it because the best thing that I think that would have happened is that if that had developed, they got together and then their relationship didn't work out. Like they realized that they were better off as friends. I think that would have been a splendid like season 2, season 3 kind of conflict.
Yeah, and
But
they could have grown closer because of that.
true. But not like a random season 15 the show is about to die. Let's bring up this like 10 season old thing that never got anywhere. Like I think in the beginning fans definitely wanted like some information on that. Fans were like,
Yeah.
"What about them? What's this? What's this? What's this whole thing about?" Because there's such an obvious pairing, and the way they're written in the beginning is like, yeah, there's leeway for that. But you don't bring it up season 15 when everyone's forgotten about it, and it's the last thing that anyone wants in season 15.
Yeah, I think that thing just ties into kind of like my hatred of how the writers dealt with the last couple seasons, because they were hoping so hard. Like every season they're like, we're gonna have another one, we're gonna have another one, we're gonna have another one, and
Yeah.
they like held out for that until like season 14 when they're like, oh shit, we have to wrap this up,
Yeah.
because they didn't put any like long-term plan in place, because they just wanted more money and more screen time.
But it wasn't.
Which also, it might not have been the writers. It might have been like the network
Yeah.
was forcing them to keep going.
Yeah.
And we say the writers, we just mean, I don't know who it was, the people.
Well, yeah. Um yeah, I'm trying to think. I honestly I hate the idea of it, and
I
I
just
don't know.
hate how forced it is and
Yeah.
how like uncharacteristic of JJ it
Yeah.
seems to me. Like they really like brought this out and it doesn't seem like it adheres to JJ's character at all, or Reed, because we don't see Reed like pining after JJ in like
Yeah.
season 9,
Oh god, yeah.
and then just like bring it up, like, and the way they bring it up is weird too, because there's an unsub like holding a gun to like JJ's head or something, is like, tell me something that's really weird. It's something really odd that he like tells her to do, and then she's like, I'm in love with you, Reed, and it's like
I feel like she could have said a billion other things. There's got to be something
they
else in her head
it's
that she
just
wants to
one of
say.
those things where you're like, oh, the script was only written that way because they needed it to go there,
You know
it
what?
was very obvious.
I feel like JJ as a character is emotionally would have been emotionally available enough to like tell Reed early on how she felt. And
Oh yeah.
if he didn't feel the same way, or if like she had met Will, I feel like she would have been emotionally available enough to like work through it
Hmm.
and kind of make peace with the fact that they were never going to be together, and that she has a great thing going on with Will.
And I mean, throughout the show, JJ has, in my opinion, the healthiest relationship with her family and like her children, and like the best kind of like work-life balance
Yeah.
kind of throughout all the people on the team. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's better than other people's. And then they just throw it out there, the implication at the end that the only reason she married Will because she got pregnant with Henry, and like the only reason she's still together is because of the kids, and like she doesn't care about Will that much at all. And I just don't, I feel like that's not JJ.
That is not JJ. JJ strikes me as the person who's strong enough to like, if she's really unhappy in a relationship, I feel like she would have been like, yeah, then I'll like break up with Will or whatever, or like I'll do something else.
I mean, she loves her kids, but I don't think she's the type of person who would just go through all of that like emotional kind of like hurt just for that. You know what I mean?
But yeah, she's smart enough to know that isn't gonna work out for her in the long run. And yeah, we're not even gonna entertain.
I also feel like they wouldn't be a good couple.
They wouldn't, and you know what? I'm not even gonna pose the question of how they would break up because they should never be together. This whole it's
Because
weird.
I mean, I think they're good friends, but JJ really doesn't. I don't think she respects Reed enough to be in a romantic relationship, just in the way that like she kind of makes fun of his intelligence and
Yeah.
stuff, and like in like a teasing like friend way, but in a way I feel like wouldn't be good in like a romantic relationship.
Also, the way they deal with things wouldn't mesh well. Like, remember the whole thing of like they had an argument because what's her, what's
Prentice.
her name? Not Prentice. The one we were just
Oh,
talking about.
JJ.
JJ. They had a whole argument about how JJ knew that Emily wasn't dead, and then Reed didn't know, and then they started yelling at each other. And the way they dealt with that was very much like, yeah, that would not work out in a relationship at all.
Oh yeah.
It's not good.
JJ just kind of ignored it,
Oh yeah.
and so did Reed. Until I think Emily fixed it.
Leave it to Emily to fix fucking everything, honestly.
Yeah.
Um. Okay. Uh. We're gonna actually. There's like one last ship, but I don't think we're gonna talk about this that long. Spencer Reid and Cat Adams, not a team ship, but like a weird off the side ship.
She's an unsub. Or they're gonna end up together?
In my universe, um, Cat Adams is Reed's lead in into the unsub world.
You know, I love Aubrey Plaza, but Cat Adams is a serial killer.
That's big facts. That's big facts.
She's also kind of abusive towards Reed.
No, big. That's no major. Like
Yeah.
emotionally and low key physically,
Yeah.
not great, not great, not great. Um, she weren't an unsub though. You know what's funny? I feel like if she, we when did we talked about this last episode how Aubrey Plaza is a great actress and she definitely has range, but a lot of her characters are just her, but like
Oh yeah.
maxed. Like I feel like
She is the opposite morally, aesthetically, and emotionally of Jesse Eisenberg. They're on opposite sides
why
of
do
the
you say
spectrum.
that?
They are yin and yang.
I hate that. Why'd you have to bring Jesse Eisenberg up?
Because they both play one character, but the characters they play are opposite characters.
I can't. I can't.
I'm right.
I feel like
I'm
they've been
right.
in a movie together. I feel like that's a really good movie pairing. I feel like I don't know, maybe. Anyways, no, I love Aubrey Plaza, and you know what? Matthew Gray Gubler and Aubrey Plaza have been in a lot of movies together. Actually, like they've worked together a lot. I feel like their personalities in real life fit together well. They're both like
Mm-hmm.
weirdos, but like you know what? If Kat Adams wasn't like a serial killer and like was mentally sane, I feel like her and Reid would kind of work out. If she was just like a regular person.
If she was just like April from Parks and Rec, I feel like it could have worked out. Because that's the same character, except April isn't a serial killer.
It's true.
Like that scene they have in the restaurant.
Oh yeah.
If there weren't lives on the line and she wasn't a serial killer, like the sexual tension in that episode, like I feel like they could have been in a relationship.
They'd be a really attractive couple, I think. It just don't.
They're little masterminds, intelligence children.
Their children would be sociopaths. Oh my god. Imagine like
What do
you're
you think Kat Adams would be if she wasn't a serial killer?
like job wise.
Yeah.
Um, definitely. I feel like in this. Oh god. Maybe like a business person, like
I don't want to say
CEO.
politician.
No,
Maybe like, yeah, like the CEO of a big company. I
I
feel like
get.
she'd do that. She'd like manipulate things in her company's favor.
Yeah, but I feel like, you know what? I feel like if she weren't a serial killer, she'd be like actually a really good person.
Yeah, secretly.
Secretly, she'd be a great like person. Somehow a CEO and a great person who
But
doesn't.
I mean, her being a good person would be the thing that makes her not a serial killer.
Yeah. Um. But yeah, definitely like a CEO role or like I don't know what else she'd do. Um. Yeah, I don't know if she'd be like a creative type person. I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't really see that either. Maybe like a hotshot lawyer,
Big, big
like
face.
a big like class action lawsuit type lawyer.
That's true. I see that.
I could see her doing that.
But yeah, but no, as they are now, as the characters are, that's not gonna work out. Just,
No,
just plot, basic plot. It's not gonna happen.
because she's a serial killer.
Yeah, but also they kissed, so you know what's sad.
Hmm.
Cat Adams and Spencer Reid had more action than Spencer and Maeve ever did.
We didn't have to talk about that. But let's just say I firmly believe that they killed off Maeve for no reason, and Maeve and Reed should have been together, and they would have been an amazing couple.
Yeah, no, let's move on to that. Do you want to say stuff before I go off? Because I have another thing to say about this.
I mean, it just makes me really angry that the writers obviously introduced Maeve just to kill her off a couple seasons later when she was such a good and interesting character
Yeah,
who was so good for Reed. I feel like their dynamic worked really well and they were just like really worked really well together.
yeah.
And you know what? I rewatched the like one of the Maeve scenes a couple days ago. I think it was like when I was preparing for our last podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But did you remember that the reason Reed started talking to Maeve was because of those headaches he was having and she was like a neuroscientist?
Oh, I didn't know
So
that.
I
I
was
forgot
like,
about that.
is that why they introduced the headaches for one episode and then never came back to it?
Oh my god.
So,
You know what would have been just as a plausible meeting thing? If Reed was researching something for his mom. You know how
yeah.
he's always trying to like find a cure. It would have
Hmm.
made sense if they had met through Reed researching for his mom.
And I mean, I might be wrong, but wasn't Maeve killed like not even in like a finale episode?
I don't think so. I
Wasn't
think
it just like in the middle of the season?
for some reason.
So they were real. It's like I remember it being the middle of the season because like the next episode Reed just isn't there because he's grieving.
Yeah. What if that was a thing? Like for some reason Matthew couldn't shoot that episode, so they were like, actually, let's not get
That's
them
why they
together.
introduced
Let's
Maeve.
just no. Sorry. Do you want to keep going in that?
No,
Or
it's okay.
okay. Here's my take. If first of all, I don't like that the reason they probably introduced his headaches was like to like make them meet as like she's like a neurosurgeon. I think like what would have been perfect is like if Reed was like looking for something for his mom and he met Maeve and they like bonded, how like how trauma does things. And then they talked and then Reed saved her and then she actually lived and then they
Yeah,
would have had a great relationship because as characters they fit so well.
they really do. They're little things and they're talking about the poetry and the writers they like. Like that's so come on. Like
Dude,
honestly, I think it could have been the exact same up to the point where Maeve gets killed because then like Reed could have saved her in some way.
yeah.
I'm not a
They
writer. I don't know
they
how that would
no,
happen, but
they
like
always do it. There's always like wacky ways people get saved and not
yeah,
die.
the gun could have jammed and then like Reed has been like undoing his hands the whole time and then he like does like a kick and he kicks the gun out of the girl's hand and he like
That
tackles her.
oh, you know how good that development would have been if like a big growing point for Reed was that he like made something like that happen, because we don't really see Reed as this big strong character a lot of the time, especially in the early
Yeah.
seasons. So it would have been great for him to like really like step up and like do a big thing and like save Maeve. But we're not gonna get that for some dumb. You know how well written like Maeve's story was? She had such an interesting origin story.
She really did.
Like her whole thing
And
was
then
that
she could have been a recurring character. She could have been a what do they call the people they ask for information?
consultant.
Yes, she could have been a consultant for the BAU, and they could have like brought her in every once in a while. And then Reed and Maeve could have been lovey dovey, and everyone could have been you, and it would have been great.
I'm fucking pissed. It's like
Nothing pisses me off on the show more than that.
you know what? They're the same kind of couple as like Garcia and Kevin. Of how like they've just managed to find
Yeah.
these people that like match them so perfectly, and then for some fuck all reason they're like, we actually can't work out. First,
I genuinely want to ask the writers of the show why they removed Kevin from the show. Because it wasn't like the actor was leaving, because he stayed on for like a season or two. He
yeah,
was just like there and like dating other people. And like,
I you know, and you know, I hate to compare women, but they're characters, so I'm not gonna take it too much to heart. But Max as Reed's endgame character, like partner, are you sure?
Maeve was so much of like a more well-rounded, interesting person, and she
Yeah,
had way less screen time than Max did.
that's so true. And you know, getting Maeve to me is like a really well written character, just because from the get-go she has like a complex origin story that's like interesting, and like she can't show her face because she has like a stalker, and like her
Yeah,
unsub is like a former like peer of hers from the past. Like that's so interesting. And like from there you have so much to like get into of like finding out who she is, and like you know
yeah.
through that relationship with Reed.
And now it's in like what was that, season 10,
I think so, like season
9?
9 or 10. Yeah.
They had so much time after that. They could have grown and developed her character and their relationship. And just like in comparison, Max is she's just like a normal person. Not that that's bad, but like I don't feel like Reed could be with just like someone who's completely 100% civilian,
That's true.
just with what he's lived through and who he is. And like Maeve, in comparison, she's lived through more, and her intelligence is on par with Reed's, which is something I feel like Reed needs.
Yeah, no, I think definitely like Max is intelligent, but like in a different way. And like I think
Yeah,
being intelligent in the way that Reed and Maeve were definitely like has a certain accompanying like perspective of the world that they both have, and that um would be great. It just makes me mad that it was like a possibility that was so like well written and then just like screwed over. And and I hate how from that point on I like from the get go, Reed is one of those characters that like you're just like, oh, who is he gonna end up with?
yeah.
Like that was a big thing, and I think like ending that like question in season 9 would have been perfect, because after that I spent so much of the series being like, when are they gonna introduce someone for him to fall in love with? When is it gonna happen?
Mm.
And then you hit like 11, 12, and you're like, oh, it's too late. It's never gonna happen. And then Max comes along,
And then
and
they
it
just
feels,
toss it in.
and I'm like, that's so fucked. Yeah, but before Mary's and I's heads explode from the sheer capacity of our rage, should we move on to some actual couples?
Well, we've been, how long has it been? Like an hour?
I don't know. I meant to write down when we started recording.
I think we
Um,
started recording at like 4:20. But I mean, we can keep talking. I was just, how much more do we have to go over?
um, well, actually, can we get actually let's try to end the episode. Not like end it fully, but let's tunnel into the Reed issue and all the missed opportunities of like significant others. Can we get into that? Do you want to get into that? Is
Yeah,
that okay?
sure.
Because I really started thinking about this, and I almost made a category of just Reed ships slash possibilities, because the idea of every one of them makes me pissed. Um, One thing I want to bring up so bad, because I hate that they never followed up with her, was that bartender that Reed flirted with by doing magic.
Yeah.
What? Where
She
did
was
that
another
go?
interesting character.
Where did she go? She had a whole thing.
What didn't he also like date like a movie star for like an
Lila?
act? Yeah, in like season 1 or something.
Oh, fuck. I, I. It makes me so mad that like Reed has had so many love interests and that he didn't get fully together with someone with like until the end, because Reed is definitely one of those characters that we want to see a whole relationship out of. Like we want to see him in a relationship. Like that's, you
Yeah.
know, but they didn't give it that.
I mean, that's weird to me because they do that a lot with Reed and they
Yeah.
do that a lot with Emily, but they don't really do that with the other characters. Like Hotch has like one, besides his wife, he has one love interest introduced who he dates for a while and then they kind of break up. But and then I guess Rossi has a couple things, but they're
Yeah.
his ex-wives. I don't know if that really counts.
Well, he gets back together with one of them at the end.
Yeah.
Um,
But he was dating his second ex-wife for a
yeah, yeah,
while.
yeah.
They had a little, oh, and his first ex-wife, he got back, he would, and then she died. Remember that?
I think it was his third wife. No, 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 it was the first. No,
It was
sorry,
the
you're
first
right. It
one.
was the first wife.
Yeah. That was an interesting plot line they added in. Um, Remember when he thought that they were gonna start dating, and then she was like, "No, I need you to help me commit assisted suicide," and he was like, "What?" And she was like, "I've already taken the pills." You remember that?
Yeah.
And she was like, "Don't call 911 because it's already too late, and I want to die in my house." And Rossi's like, "Ah."
I
But
can't.
yeah, they don't do that. They don't do that for JJ.
They don't.
I think her only love interest is Will.
Yeah. Well,
Besides, Veronica don't.
besides the fuck up.
So like they really only do it for Emily and Reed, which I don't really understand. They keep introducing love interests and then just throwing them away.
Yep. And it's dumb. Look, my thing is that like if it would have that whole thing of like constantly throwing away their love interest would have made sense if like in the end they didn't get together with anyone and they're like we're happy within ourselves because we have futures and like you're your own person. But it completely defeats the purpose of that when they both get together with some random character in the end.
Yeah, there's no like, because I it makes me upset because I feel like they have the same level of like chemistry and ability to keep the relationship going with the people they end up with and the throwaway relationships from the beginning.
In my head, Reed and Max break up like 2 weeks later.
Oh yeah. Also, I feel like Emily breaks up with that guy she was dating.
Andrew,
Yeah.
he's not even worth it. Because we value Emily and Spencer's characters so much. We want to see them with really complex recurring
Yeah.
characters, but
People that are like good enough for them, that like they have a good enough relationship to have like a long fulfilling.
well, good enough in the sense of like complexity,
Yeah.
like well written.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think Max could have been a well written character if she was introduced 6 seasons ago, and we like had her story. But no, she just is this like kind of I'm not like other girls character because I'm kind of abrasive and I have a like a nephew I take care of and da 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 da.
I
I
make
hate it.
fun of the guys I like. I'm quirky.
Fuck off.
That scene confuses me so much where they just decided to have her somehow have the skills of like a master analyst and like manipulating subs, just like, because remember that like they had the whole thing where they were like telling her what to do and then she decided to stop listening to them and manipulated Cat Adams, who is like literally a genius criminal mastermind. And then she's just able to manipulate her when she has no experience in that area and field. And
Her
it worked out. I
no regular person is gonna one be able to do that, but like also not break down because it's her family on the line.
yeah, and she's just kind of like chill after. Like she doesn't like cry or anything. She's just like, it's my sister, and then she hugs her, and that's like it.
You know the way they like celebrate her whole thing at the end. It reminds me of like how like you ever watch the end of like sitcoms and the kids did something together and they're like we did it, woo, and it's like high fives. I'm like no, your family almost just died at the hands of a serial killer. There's no time
Like
for
the end of an
celebration.
episode of like Wonder Pets. We saved the animal.
Also, it's kind of inappropriate. Doesn't she technically count as like a witness or like as like a person involved in a crime? Not like as a perpetrator, of course, but isn't she kind of like
Yeah.
it's if like it's like you're this is hypocritical. Remember when Derek got really close to a lady and because he was helping her find like a family member or something, and then Garcia was like, Derek, you can't do that because she's like uh involved in the crime, and then that's why
I
they
don't remember
couldn't.
that.
Okay, I'll say this. It's very hypocritical because early on Derek like gets very close to a lady that like is involved with one of their cases, and like he gets a little too involved, which is true. Like you that
Oh
okay,
wait, I think I remember that.
yeah, and Garcia calls him out on it, and of course there's like a moment, but then Derek's like, "Whoa, this is not going to work out because you're like involved." It's the same thing. Like I don't care that they met like before, like 2 days before their before Max's family got kidnapped. She is like personally involved with one of his cases, and she should be in a vulnerable state. You know, as a person,
It's
it's not
strange. It's
appropriate. It's not
strange.
appropriate.
It's just not well written.
And that's what every episode of this podcast comes down to. It just wasn't well written, was it? Writers of Criminal Minds.
We're
Um,
not attacking anybody.
we're not.
We're just stating the facts.
This is, what this is. What do they call it? Constructive criticism.
Yes. You
If
can take this with you to your next project.
yeah,
Writers of Criminal Minds.
you know what? Next project, I'm. Hey, look, you know what? I'm a 17-year-old with no resources. If the writers of Criminal Minds want to help me get connected to people in Hollywood in order to make this movie I dream of one of the members being a killer, please call me. I'll this will be your redemption arc. I promise you. I don't think it'll make a lot of money. I don't think anyone's interested in the Criminal Minds movie at the moment, but you know what?
We'll just do a lot of ads.
Let's do a lot of ads. We will advertise the movie on every episode of this podcast.
Yeah.
Hey, what are you looking for?
My AirPod case. It just beeped. Made the beepy noise. Wait, where'd it go? I don't know where it went. My AirPods are gonna run out of batteries.
Okay. Well, I think that's it for this podcast. I hope you guys somewhat enjoyed this podcast and that we didn't
It
bring
was mostly ranting.
it was a lot of ranting, and I would like to apologize for all the cursed topics and chips I brought up. And
And if you ship these people, like, we're not judging. Just, I'm not gonna read that.
I'm not gonna read it either, but you know what I will read? Your comment below saying that you want to be on the show and explain yourself. Please.
Yeah, we will definitely. We can send you the Zoom link. We can chat about it.
We want to know how your mind works.
I'm very intrigued.
I am intrigued too. Anyways,
I've taken a psych class before, so I'm like basically a certified professional.
I've taken a psych class. We both have taken a psych class.
Yeah.
We have some authority.
Mm-hmm.
Very minimal.
I could write doctor before my name, probably.
Oh, God. Just start doing that on your assignments.
Yeah.
Okay. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Wheels Up. If you want to see last week's episode, it'll be at the end of this video. And if you want to see the next week's episode, silly, it's not there. We haven't uploaded it yet or recorded it. So
that'll be in the future.
That'll be in the future. Isn't that crazy? But yeah, thanks for watching. Stay safe. Bye.
Bye.